Now to the other side of the aisle. President Biden has a predicament of his own making right now in New Hampshire. The president actually not listed on next week's Democratic primary ballot. That, if you're wondering why, is because he wanted South Carolina to host the Democrats' first sanctioned primary. Remember, South Carolina is basically the state that launched his campaign last go-around. So the president is refusing to have his name listed in New Hampshire. Supporters are afraid of a symbolic loss and are mounting a write-in campaign. So, Chris, Mick, come on back, because the president is not going to be on the ballot there in New Hampshire next week. I was reading Jim Messina, Obama World, basically making the point, Lisa Murkowski, the senator in Alaska, in 2010, she got 39% in a write-in campaign there. And I said, wait a minute, is he comparing the president of the United States to a sitting United States senator? Anyways, that brings up other questions about Biden. But look at this new poll from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. State of Georgia, going to be a key state. Donald Trump, 45, Joe Biden, 37. We asked the question about strengths and weaknesses right off the top. How would you apply that right now to Joe Biden as he's sitting here today, Chris?
If Joe Biden was as strong as Lisa Murkowski is in Alaska, he wouldn't have any trouble getting reelected this year. But he's not. He certainly is not. And the trap game of New Hampshire, and we remember this from one of Joe Biden's predecessors, Lyndon Johnson, who wasn't on the ballot in New Hampshire either. I will not bore you with all of the details, but it basically came down to this. In a symbolic loss, he didn't even really lose, but his challenger got a big enough percentage that it scared Lyndon Johnson out of the race. And after the New Hampshire primary in 1968, Lyndon Johnson stunned the world and dropped out of the contest. Now, I don't think Dean Phillips is going to do that. Right. I don't think discount liquor heir Dean Phillips is on his way to excellence and reshaping the Democratic Party. But I do think that the risks for a real embarrassment for Biden in New Hampshire are real, and they better have a good organization on the ground to get a ton of write-ins so that you can turn this risk into a positive so they can say he wasn't even on the ballot and he won.
Right. Mick, real quick.
Yeah, real quick, I'll leave it to Johanna and Michael to talk about the Democrats. That Georgia number fascinates me because that's a state I've watched very closely. I've talked to the Republicans down there, Republican members of the Congress. They've told me from the very beginning they thought Trump would struggle in Georgia because of the way he treated Governor Brian Kemp during Brian Kemp's reelection. They told me 6 months ago they didn't think there was a way possible for Trump to win Georgia because of the animosity of Georgia Republicans over that race. So to see that number coming out of Georgia tells me that maybe things have changed there, or maybe Joe Biden is just that unpopular in Georgia.
It's interesting, and Mick, I was going to bring up, because Chris brought up the liquor money. Dean Phillips, it's schnapps money, to be specific, and then it's vodka money, and Dear Abby lineage. He's very interesting, but nobody on the Democratic side knows who he is or claim him as a Democrat because they don't know who he is until, I guess, New Hampshire, and then they'll be like, who's Dean Phillips? I think what Dean is saying is there should have been a robust primary. We should have had a robust primary. It would benefit us.
The DNC's not allowing that.
No, because we're at this point, exactly, it's an incumbent advantage. So they're saying it's incumbent advantage. It doesn't really matter if Joe Biden wins the write-in campaign. It's not even his campaign.
Can I just tell you this? I'm sorry, actually. The number that came out over ABC over the weekend, when asked, does Joe Biden have the mental sharpness to be president, only 28% of Americans said yes, 69% said no. Unless he becomes Benjamin Button, that's going to become an enduring problem for this campaign that they can't fix. And that's going to hurt him in Georgia and every other battleground state, because being old and something that you can physically see with your own eyes, the mental and physical decline of him is going to be a problem that they can overcome.
Okay. All right. I got to run. Yeah. There's a lot to talk about here. I didn't even get Michael.
20% of the
Michael
people
needs to talk about the
said they didn't know if they could vote for either.
Right. Real quick.
You're good. You're good.
We're good. We'll get to it. We got a lot of time to talk. All right. By the way, thank you for watching. And make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.